Okay, that's better. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started here today. And sending love out to those who are still in recovery mode on the island, have family on the islands down south, Texas. Still, there are some parts that are underwater, draining water, getting food to families that are affected. It is not a game, not a joke. So sending love to all our family that's out there working. I just talked to one of the sisters from the Juicy community, and she was actually joining someone to go down and support with some volunteer efforts and volunteer still in Houston. Houston was hugely impacted because it's a flat land situation there. And, of course, Florida now. And keep in mind, too, some of the pictures that you may see, if you don't see it live, there are people who hype up the news. I found out on a post that some of the pictures that we see are pictures from other countries, different years, the gridlock that they put. So be careful, about the amount of media that you take in as well. So I'm sending love to you. That's one of the reasons why I'm fasting, so I could hear, because I knew that the earth is speaking. And definitely there's been messages in my world, in my life. And so I want to share with you, because when you do absolutely no food, you feast on, hopefully you're feasting on something like a word, meditation, prayer, and deeply into the space of your own inner voice. So I want to share something with you that, was an experience that ushered in me to go into deep meditation earlier this week. Took me actually by surprise, kind of took my breath away. And I kept hearing the word over and over again around entitlements. And it came up, it's come up before in some of my own processes. And, when I talk, I want to give you the context. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining. I want to give you the context. I think I invited everyone. A lot of times we look at certain words that we use, hey, well, hello, Samantha. How are you, my love? They take on different meanings according to the culture. And I'm going to go a little slow today. I hope you will bear with me. I'm going to measure my energy, even when and if Spirit does inspire me more. I want to measure my energy a little bit today. And so I was meditating on this word after this experience around entitlements. And whenever I have an experience that takes my breath away, that disturbs me, where I feel out of sorts, what I do is always go within. Hi, sweetheart. What I do is I go within and I ask myself first, how did I attract this? What am I doing to create this, recreate this, or recycle an experience in my life? And if I'm not doing it currently, I may have done it at another time in my life. And so in that case, I might be called to be more of a teacher because I've lived through it and experienced it. And so I had an experience where, again, I felt like I had been giving and giving, and it wasn't quite enough. Now, some things in terms of information, details, that type of thing, we can always ask. And, one of the feminine tools that I share and that I teach is about the asking for what it is that we want. Putting ourselves in positions to receive, to conjure desire, all of these things are feminine tools, because oftentimes as women, we don't ask for what we want, and we'll resent people who don't give us what we expect, but we didn't ask, right? And so there's that. And so I went into a little bit of study, and oftentimes, some of these things are inspired by the mastermind and the process with my husband. So you can apply this to your relationships, with family members, but also your romantic, your love relationships, your heart center. You can apply this even to your money, and that's exactly where I'm going to go around this topic of having and have nots, right? And the spirit and the energy of that, because entitlement is a tricky word, and we use it sometimes in the cultural tone to really mean that someone has a right to something. And there's also the overtone of the emotional entitlements, where we feel like there may be some arrogance in someone who feels entitled. And for a moment, I had to digest that too, because we can attach that. A lot of times women who have been good girls absolutely feel entitled, because in your mind you think, I've been good. I've done this right. I've done right by you. Wives feel entitled when you have shared and sacrificed your body, and even before you're a wife, sometimes religious dogma makes us believe we're entitled. So because you may have so much religious stuff going on, you may feel like, okay, well, I slept with you, so I feel like, well, you owe me. We go in there. There's that. People who sleep with men and who don't possess their own relationship with their sexuality, their sensuality, and they feel like, I gave you something, so therefore you got to give me something. Come on now. If I'm walking down your alley, let me know early. Give me some energy today, because I need all I can. And so then there's that. We can feel entitled in our emotional relationships, in things that we haven't communicated. We can feel entitled. Come on, walk with me here. So oftentimes entitlements are not communicated, and sometimes it's an air. It's something that we wear, and then when we do apply the courage to ask for what we want, sometimes the expectation is that there'll be a yes. So we don't honor a lot of times if a person says no, or we feel like we're entitled to the truth. But many marriages are based on lies. Many marriages are based on lies from the very beginning. A lot of people go in with these hidden entitlements that I'm talking about right now, and never really confronting them and asking, where did they come from? How do I feel this? Because usually that it's an emotional entitlement when there is resentment when you don't get your own way. So a lot of good girls also tend to be very spoiled, very, very spoiled and used to getting their way. And so I had to look up what entitlement meant. And so it's very simple that they call an entitlement, the origin and the word comes from the title of a book, to give a book a title. And I said, okay, so, I'm a former English teacher. I don't know how many of you know that I taught English in private school for a few years before I realized being confined in the classroom was not for me. So I love English and I love words, and I applied that in ministry. And so I said, okay, well, let me go a little bit further. So I went into entitle. I said, okay, well, entitle is to give a right to. It is to give access to something, a right, a land, a property. So from entitlement, we go to entitle. It's from the old French, okay? And so then I had to look at the word, and so it's to name something. It's to name a right, to name. Hello, everyone. Thank you for saying hello to your sisters when you come in and to me. And so you it's to name something. Name is very, very powerful in this conversation that we're having today. And you can put your thoughts in as they come in. And so then I said, okay. So I know that when you see en in front of a word, it means to enter. That's where you get the word enter, entre. It means to go in something. So when you title something, you're putting it in a name. You're entitling. That's where the word comes from. So now I said, okay, my study took me further, and it took me to the word title. And it's real simple. Title is really the name of something. It's what you go by. It even goes further to say that the word actually came from one who is ordained in ministry. Title. And so I said, wow. So title is what you're ordained into. And when you look at African traditional, hey Tisha, when you look at African traditional religions and some ancient cultures, they title, hello beloved, elder, when they title something, they title the child's life with a name. Your name is your title. So we all wear a title. But what happens when it moves from the actual meaning of the word to the cultural meaning of a word, meaning that I have a right to something, and usually it's born from the spirit of shoulds. So we think that something is supposed to be, you should do this because I did that. You should do this because I am this. So we title ourselves as a woman. Now, if you've never studied the context of your womanhood, how do you hold the context of your womanhood? Because when you're looking at relating to men, your entitlements will come up. When you look at relating to becoming from being a woman to a girlfriend to a wife and even to a mother, there are entitlements, right? So which ones of these are feelings, the emotional entitlements, and which one of these are fantasy, and which one of them are facts? That's my question to you today as I try to share with you what I see that's possible, because my feelings was hurt. I give a lot in this ministry to women, in this marketplace ministry, right? And I want to put a pin in that because there is a distinction for those of you who are ministers and who've been ordained in ministry, taught in ministry. You are used to a service-based model, and there's a lot of shoulds from ministers on themselves and their congregation, and there's a lot of shoulds from the congregation onto ministers. That for a long time, I did not even go by the title of reverend. I did not like it. I didn't want it, because even though I did my work and I put in my time, I was reluctant to stand fully in the ministry that I was ordained into, because I didn't want the people to put me in a box. Not because I was in a box, not because of anything was wrong, but I know how the minds of the people work. And so many times you have ministers who should on themselves. They won't do certain things in front of y'all because they're afraid you're going to judge them. So if we have a party or something like that, they'll say no alcohol. Doesn't mean that minister doesn't drink. Okay? But the congregation might make the assumption that drinking is wrong. A minister may have extracurricular activities that you are not aware of. So what we do now is we start to hide behind titles, because when we look at the word title and look at the thing called name means your nature. Okay, what your name is according. Hey, Tanaj, I hope you're feeling better, sweetheart. Name means nature. Okay, Name that. So when we start talking about naming something, we have to look at the nature of a thing. And how many of us are not walking in our nature, but we got a title? Even if your title is mother, you might not have the nature of a mother. Even if you got children, somebody could I'm a mother and I don't have any children from my womb. According to y'all have become my children. But I'm gonna tell you the setup in that, because if you haven't healed your relationship with your mother and you start calling somebody your mama, then you have unspoken emotional expectations and attachments that you will place on another person, that you give title mama, or that you give title best friend, or that you give title daddy. That's my daddy. Be careful. Because many of us have not dealt with what the nature of what's going on with us. And so we transfer that thing right on over to the men that we're in relationship with. Am I spreading it enough for everybody here? Okay. So when I had this experience, my impulse was to shut it down. Well, if I'm not appreciated, what I'm giving is not enough, shut it down. Spirit said, nope, we done with that. I've already done that. We've already done that journey of shutting it down, because many of us have also shut down on ourselves because we're trying to manage the original trauma that we're operating in under the title. And I'll give you an example of another title. The title of I am a victim. I've been molested. That's a title. I've been abused. That's a title. And so we function under these titles. I'm divorced. That's a title. And so we start naming, giving title to the issues that we walk in. Oftentimes because we have not healed. If you see my hair dripping, it is because it is wet. My husband did an amazing job, didn't he? Better than the lady who mucked me up. So here, and I'm sorry, my light, I don't want to get up from the chair to lower the light so you can have more contrast. The important thing is that you can hear me. Oh yeah, thank you. You can drop some titles in here. I appreciate that one, Dana. I'm broke. That's a title. So we go by these titles. Oftentimes we lean on the title when we don't feel that we're enough. When we don't, it's dangerous when you don't feel like you're enough. And so you lean on the title. I can honestly say when I came into ministry, I did not lean on the title of who I was, because I was that before I got ordained, and I'm that after, and there's other things that God keeps on calling me to that I didn't know that I was, or I wasn't walking fully in it, that I hadn't got the title yet, or I just haven't done the rites of passage to get the title. See, because we don't think that we have to do a rites of passage oftentimes, and that's why I do rites of passage processes, because we don't think that there's a rites of passage. And ladies, I want to talk to you who don't trust women, and those of you who are say you don't trust women. That's a title. I don't fool with women. I don't deal with too many women. I don't deal with too many people. That's a title. And so your title has a life. It's a living organism, and it manifests based off of the nature of what you are entitling. So that feeds not only the emotion, but it feeds the fantasy. So we begin to be shut down and cut off from the true nature of who we are, which when nature means name means title. And we already set that up. You got to look at the video from the beginning to get the setup of it, because I'm going somewhere. And so look, check this out. So here we are, entitled, spoiled, sometimes even bratty, having temper tantrums. I have done a few of them with my husband, and I sometimes I might be walking around and I get mad about something, he don't know it because I feel like, well, I'm entitled to this. He should do this. I did this, so he should do this for me. I've been ministering all week on my Facebook page, if you want to go check it out, on the idea that we need to be saved. I watch people in Houston. I told you all about the brother who got on and said the Red Cross is not coming. They passing by black people, and or they're doing this and they're doing that. Now, what is the difference between the feeling of you should help me and the truth of you should help me? Because sometimes we're right. There is a right. There is a right that many of us walk in, and that's where it gets to the facts. You see, facts are not emotional. Facts don't need to be manipulated by your title, by your entitlement. Facts don't need to be and what I mean by that is your tone. What I mean by that is the way you ask for what you want, because yes, every person has a right to ask for what it is that we want. And so I'm going to be real specific, because those of you who will listen to this later who are healers and who are teachers and who are ministers, you got to be very careful that you're not walking in the old model of ministry, in the old model of healing, in the old model of being an enlightener or awakener, that you die at the expense of everybody else living, or that you martyr yourself because you are serving people who feel entitled because you stood up while they sit down. You do not have a right to abuse those who you call on to support and to help you. But sometimes we do it unconsciously, because these entitlements are operating based off of the thing that we have named for ourselves: abused, a molested wife, mother, client, whatever the case may be. We're using a lot of times entitlements to feed our disability and not our ability. And so therefore, when we don't get what we want, a lot of times we resent the person that is put in front of you to support you, to love you, or we can't even see it sometimes. I'm speaking for myself first, always. So now let's get more into the facts. Because when I looked at the word entitled, there is a thing that we are entitled to. What's interesting about entitlements is that when you talk to melanated people about what they really are entitled to, they don't want to hear it. It's too much work. I don't want to go through that process. When you talk to a lot of times to melanated people who call themselves by crayon colors, and that's the beginning of losing your rights. See, because I've been studying a lot more jurisprudence, and so when you tell people what's going on with banking, come on, Dana, you know what I'm talking about. When you tell people about this gold, or and you tell them about the thing that is good for them, and they question you, and they're reluctant to it, or so there is a process even when you have a right. What I have learned in law is that even though as a melanated person who had my land rights stolen from me from generations prior to me, when those lands in Mississippi and Louisiana where my people were already here, those land rights from the mound people, the pyramids that already exist here, what I learned about this is that in order to access those rights, and they have miscategorized those things because they mistitled us. Look, all of this stuff is in law. They said who we were in law. I didn't believe it until my teacher came and told me to open up the dictionary and told me to read the law. In Philadelphia, the original court, they said who we were in law, but we forgot. And how we forgot is how we classify ourselves. Now that's nothing but facts. You can check on it. There's even a book out called The Color of Law, written by a good old Jewish white man understand, because there's a Jew that is Hebrew, you know that, right? That's another stolen title. The people who protect the whole name of being Jewish, that the original Jew looked like me and looked like you, many of you who are in here at least. And so here we go now. So now to go check that out, the color of law. There is a law called the colorable law. And you can look that up and study it for yourself. And so while we round here talking about Black Lives Matter, and we talking, but we don't understand that it is because we are misclassified in law. But nobody wants to really hear that because it requires something from you. And so what I learned is that in order to access your rights, you have to study. You have to study yourself first. You got to study law first, and then you got to connect it with spiritual law, and then you got to shed the old mind of how you're used to doing things in a certain way, because there's a certain way that we've been taught to do things as employees. See that employee mind? You can just take that employee mind and put it, y'all talk about people with a slave mentality, but baby, you don't know your slave mentality until that 9 to 5 is taken away, till you've been laid off. And you looking, and what I used to do when I got laid off, or when I start hearing about a layoff, I start looking for another job. And then I start to study what job meant. Well, in etymology, when a word, I'm deviating a little bit, but when a word has the same spelling in a different sound, or the same sound in a different spelling, the origin oftentimes is the same, because this English language is a bastardized language that we use to define ourselves. And if we looked at what it is that we are saying about ourselves and who we are, we would be surprised, because we're quick to talk about words have energy, and the power of the spoken word is the power of the spoken word is in the tongue. You feel me? So, but then we say that, but then when it comes time for us to go to the next level of our process, of our call, there's another fact that we don't oftentimes want to face. And so we walk around sometimes feeling entitled and feeling like our rights have been taken away, and somebody is trying to do something to us. Because when you are walking around in the spirit of a victim, when you are walking around still holding on the label of what happened to you 10, 20 years ago, but you never gone to a therapist, you never done any therapy. I want to pause and slow myself down here a little bit, because you don't know the number of women who have come to me, who have told me that they are bleeding from their womb, that they have to put on pads every day, but they won't go to a doctor. You don't know the number of women that have come to me and have told me, I was molested by my father, by my cousin, by my uncle. And you walking around with that thing on the inside of you, carrying the title and the entitlement. Because what the entitlement starts to do is looking for somebody to rescue, to help you. But when you don't know how to ask for help, it comes out with the brassiness, with the always got a sad story, always thinking that somebody is about to do something to you. So people who have been called to support and to help you, you don't pray for them, you pray on them. That doesn't apply to everybody. That doesn't apply to everybody. But let me tell you how it shows up. Because sometimes, let me tell you about I'm a victim. I'm a victim of my circumstance. So therefore, I'm broke. I don't have that much money. That's a title. And so when you say, I want to take your services, I want to do something, I want to work with you, but I don't have it. Now, you know, I encourage everyone to ask, because I'm so flexible. This is what I'm talking about. The negotiation. I will do it. But when you come to me with a spirit of I should do something, or I should just, it should be lower. Why are they charging that much? You giving more energy to the title of lack, even if you are unconscious of it. Because the same energy that we use to criticize or to say that we cannot do something is the same energy that we could use to say, how can I? What can I create? But you see, women, we've been cut off from our creative power because there's so many entitlements in being a woman that we have not addressed. And sometimes women are the worst to other women. So when you walk around talking about you don't trust women, you don't trust men, you don't trust authority, you don't trust the price structure, you don't trust, the common denominator is the word trust. So what is your trust? Because even that word has a meaning from emotions to metaphysics to law to jurisprudence. See, because my husband, I'm going to tell you something, I'm going to drop this in here. I'm deviating again. I know I'm deviating again, but I want to drop this in here just to give you an idea of titles. Because we use this word marriage most of the time for y'all. We use this word husband and wife most of the time for y'all so that you can understand the commitment that he and I took, because our word has not been our bond. We have not operated around people whose word have been their bond. And so that's why we have all these policies and laws and all of these protective mechanisms, because we've operated around people who have not kept their word to us, and we do not deal with the fact of people who do not keep their word to themselves. So marriage is a man-made institution. And if you study what the word marriage means, it means more rage. More rage. So many of us are married. We're more raged. We're more raged. And I can't tell you the number of women who come to me who are dissatisfied in their marriage, dissatisfied with their sexual life, dissatisfied, but they can't do anything because I'm doing it for the kids. I'm doing it for the title. And that is when we go right back to fantasy. And we're walking around with these entitlements of what somebody should do for us, when we are unwilling to stand up and do the basic things for ourselves. And so you get mad because what? I got to pay all the bills. You got to pay all the bills. You what about you? I can't go there because even the bill structure is something that I had to learn because I operated under the title of being responsible. I really believe that responsibility, I got to be responsible. I can't do that. When I first started understanding jurisprudence, taxes, and the Federal Reserve Bank, when I started to understand the decentralization of the bank system, we've all been lied to. So these race wars, where while everybody's walking around here talking about title, I'm black, I'm white, these race wars are fed. Who is distracting you? And so we feed into these titles. First of all, those are crayon colors. White, did you know in history that when you go study history, that white was the original thing that meant melanated, indigenous. Did you know that? So while we're walking around talking about the white man this and no, what it would be more proper to say Anglo-Saxon. It would be more proper to say Irish. It would be more proper to say German. It would be more popular to say European. Because now you're naming the source. But many of times we don't name the source. We won't name the source of the things that we've been walking around feeling entitled to. And so when you find yourself resentful, scared, worried, anxiety, oftentimes it's easy to look at what somebody else is doing, what somebody else did or withheld from us. And black people, so-called black people, y'all know, I'm very transparent. I didn't understand even when I was in the nation why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the so-called black man in America. Because when you study supreme wisdom, the supreme wisdom says, who is the original man? The original man is, this is the answer. This is supreme wisdom. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. That's the answer. There's another one that says, who is the white man? And it'll tell you who the white man is. I had to study that. I had to know that. That's why I can spit it like it's a rap song, because there was a process that I had to go through just to get into even those ranks of supreme wisdom. But many of us have not been through a process, and we resent the process of becoming. You see why I love the butterfly? Because I am the butterfly. At one point in my life, I was the butterfly by force. My pain forced me into the caterpillar. My pain forced me to go down low like a worm existence, because I didn't understand what was next. What was I going to do? I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel safe. And so my pain forced me closer to God. Some of y'all don't have no God relationship based on no choice. You have a God relationship based on force. You had to get up in the morning and go to church with your mama. You ain't never had an opportunity to explore something outside of what it is that your family did. You cook in the same pot that your mama cooked in, but you never explore another type of pot. You cook the same thing. But there is some facts around that. There's some facts around understanding your lineage, even when it comes to diet. So here we go. So now, I am the butterfly by force early on in my story, but I became the butterfly rebirth over and over again by choice. Because the reason we are here as human beings, spiritual beings having a human experience, is because this earth experience is full of illusions. Full of them. But we give credence through these entitlements, the false entitlements. And it's okay to be a spoiled and a kept woman. Most women want to be a kept woman. I was a kept woman at one point in my life. You understand what I'm saying? I had brand new cars. I had the house. When my friends was clubbing, I was purchasing a home. I was running two businesses in New Orleans. I was covering my head. I was changing my diet because I had a heart for God. See, God had already called me, but I didn't know. I thought I had attached it to the practice of the religion. Sometimes God is calling you to something, and what your way station along the way is not necessarily where you're supposed to set up your residence. You might stay there, but that's not necessarily who you are or what you are designed to be. And so here we go. I come out of that, and I felt like God had betrayed me. I felt like, well, I've been good. I've been faithful. I followed the rules. I didn't have sex before I was married. I served. I was at every meeting. I traveled. I quit school at one point just so I could serve my people. My people. How many people who walking around here revolutionaries, and they broke, they're martyrs, ministers, choir directors. They can't pay their funeral costs. They got to do a GoFundMe account. Because we allow people to have entitlements to us that they do not have a right to. And we project entitlements onto other people that you do not have a right to. We do it with our husbands. We do it with our parents. And for a long time, I'm going to keep on telling my story. If you feel your story in here, please drop it in, because don't do it for me, because I know a lot of you all that show up here. Do it for the sister that's watching who's operating under the entitlement of, I don't really comment. I don't really say that much. I just watch it, whatever the case may be. Now I'm sweating. That's not all my wet hair. This is good. And so y'all know that when I'm teaching like this, I'm not yelling at you. I'm allowing spirit to move through me, because sometimes I plan one thing and then spirit starts to, but for so long, I'm going to tell you, when I tell you about that thing of even being faithful in service, in religion, faithful, and then feeling like God was not there when I woke up, when I awakened. And I felt like, well, here I am. I'm out here by myself. Woo. I remember the day that I was riding, and it took me so long to say out of my mouth in a prayer, I'm so angry with you, God. Some of y'all are angry with God. You angry with God because of the parents that they gave you. And I remember when I was, because I thank God now that my mother didn't give me everything. I used to have a problem with that because I used to think, why is she so selfish? Why does she? But she was building something up in me, even if she didn't know she was building something up in me. So when y'all say, how you pick up and move to Costa Rica? I'm still answering that question. How do you just leave everything and move across country from Chicago to Washington, D.C.? How do you move from New Orleans to Chicago? How did you do that? Many of us cannot leave because we don't really know what we are entitled to, and we feel more entitled because you have attachments to stay in place for other people. Or sometimes you have attachments to stay in place so that those other people can take care of you because you have never dealt with the truth that you can take care of yourself. And that if you are walking around and you teaching and you posting about all of this God, all of this spirit, and all of this just truth, I used to think that metaphysics was it. But I didn't know that there was more. There is more. If I told you what was required of you, would you still say yes? If I told you, would you still say yes? Nope. Tell the truth. Hell no. No. Hell to the no. Y'all say no. I said no too. And that's why I'm teaching all year on yes. All year. Because I fortified my no. I fortified my no, because when you've been molested, when you've been abused, when your heart has been broken by your parents or the people that you have trusted to be authority over you, you don't have a strong no. And so many of you only know your power through anger. I talked to one sister who even the careers that we choose oftentimes is based on our pain. That's how come it's so many sick social workers, and many of them want to be coaches now, but they don't like coaches. That's what one social worker told me. You know that there's a thing between social workers and coaches, huh? I said, no, I didn't know that there was a thing. 'Cause it ain't my thing. It ain't my thing, baby. So don't place that title on me. You understand? There's so many things that I'm not aware of that are happening in certain cultures because God pulled me away and out of it for so long. And so, yeah, we're walking around as wounded healers even, Pastor. We're walking around with the title, I'm a wounded healer. Well, what do you think you're going to attract? I'm to the point. Some days, some nights. Come on now, I'm going to tell the truth because some of them won't tell you this. We keep on serving some of you. And we think that we're sick. We think that we're not doing something right. And what it is we've been coaching and counseling the dark shadows over and over again, and then we don't get up and clean ourselves, or we don't get up and manage our energy, and we don't get up and go get in the bath because that shit jumps on us. People who don't love you, it ain't gonna jump on them. They put the price of what it is that they have out there. You pay it or you don't. Some of the people you follow and you run behind because they're showing you the flashy things that they have. Some of the people the mega churches that you like to go to, you go and you follow and you run behind them. Because you see what they got, because you want it, because you don't really believe that you can have it. So let me get in proximity to the thing. Instead of becoming the light, let me get in proximity to the one who looks like they lit. They all the way lit, baby. And you don't know that they are marketing to you. Help me, Holy Spirit. Somebody just say, help a Lord, help a Lord. Lord meaning law of life. So there are certain entitlements that we have rights to, that we won't study, that we won't pursue, because it's too much work. And even if you want to, some of you are so bombarded with your life. With your life, you trying to manage your life and keep up the appearances of your life. So you don't have time to really do what you feel called to do. And sometimes it's exhausting. It's offensive. It's absolutely offensive. I posted on my Instagram where David Banner said he read some ancient text. And in the ancient text said, when you get to a certain point of study, you want to tell everything. There was a point in time where I posted everything I wanted y'all to know on my page. Every ritual, everything, every text. Because I thought I made the assumption that people want to heal. I made the assumption that I'm going to put it out there. But the very people who are asleep will be the very people who say, crucify him. Jesus was betrayed, baby. He wasn't supposed to be crucified. That's how come I love teaching the 7 last words. That's how come, because that resurrection story is the story of me going through a caterpillar phase. But the thing is, you don't just go through it one time. That's why I posted this week, there is no transfiguration without transformation. And so some of you who are worried about your brand, if your brand is another entitlement, What about you? What about you? Who are you? Because many of us are building a brand, but we have not built up ourselves. And I want to encourage you too. Yes, I am too. I am rebirth every day. Every day. And sometimes I have to say, Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. Because when I try to do it, and I've been guilty of the old model, carrying people that were too heavy because I want people to get it. But anyway, I was talking about David Banner. Go check out David Banner likes pictures. You'll see what he says. About 6 weeks ago, he posted something saying, I didn't know that when you study certain things that you're not supposed to tell it. This is why they had the mystery schools. Have you ever studied what an initiate had to go through in the mystery school? See, those pyramids, they had passageways. Well, there were some of them that had to swim in the passageways. Well, if you don't know how to swim, and guess what? If you die, that's okay. You weren't supposed to be initiated. And so when we look at even the storms that are happening, who you gonna be mad at? I've seen rappers. I've seen people, my friends who are rappers. I got some rapper friends in the industry, just like y'all. Got some people who was calling Irma a bitch, and I was like, ooh, oh my. Let me watch your life let me watch you for the next few years. Irma, that bitch. Fuck that bitch, Irma. That's what some of them said. Irreverent. As if nature is not being nature. We want nature to be something where nature is supposed to evolve around man rather than man being a part of nature. So guess what? There are some casualties in nature because nature goes through a detox. And let me say, you got to understand, for my people who are in New Orleans, you got to understand, when you are shunning your magic and you're not practicing your magic and you don't know, why is the water talking? Why? The water is speaking. And women, I already said this, I already taught this, that the water always represents the feminine. And Mama Lushita Tish told us that Oshun's waters was troubled. And so yes, Oshun is something beautiful. We love that title too. Come on now, everybody wants to be an Oshun. Oh, I'm Oshun. Because Oshun is so sensual and she represents abundance. I'm an Oshun. You are all the Orishas, just like you are all of the zodiac. All aspects of them are in you. All of them. But when Oshun is angered, just like when they say, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. You are all of it. There are no limits. Now, I'm going to close out with this for the facts. There are some things that we are entitled to that other people are not entitled to. And how do you feel about that? I'll be honest with you. There was a time when I would feel some kind of way. When I felt like somebody was being picked over me. But you see, that feeling spoke to the issue. The issue was I had to go back and remember when I was being compared to my cousin, when I felt like in my family. See, I don't talk about this that much because it's not that fresh in my memory. I remember being a little girl and I would go and sit on the couch, on the sofa in the morning time before we went to school. And my aunt, my cousin's grandmother, she would cook breakfast, good old breakfast, grits, thick old salami, eggs. Sometimes she'd do some biscuits. And I had to get up early in the morning, just like my cousin. But my mother had to get up earlier, so she didn't have time to make breakfast for me. And so oftentimes I was hungry, sitting on the couch. And the woman, my aunt, she wouldn't feed me. She wouldn't offer me any food. I was hurt. My stomach was growling. My cousins, so when she would start offering me food, she would make sure I got the scraps. So when I'd go get a little food, I'd have to take the spoon and clean the grits from the plate. I might get a little piece of salami, maybe a little side piece of egg. But if I got grits and I got salami, I was okay with that. Woo, Lord. Some of y'all been okay with getting the scraps. So there was favoritism in my family very early on. So I'm very sensitive. I was in, some of you think that it's multi-level marketing that you don't like. Some of you think it's this and that you don't like. But it's what you experienced that you never healed. And I didn't tell my mother, just like many of us don't tell about the molestations. I didn't tell my mother because I wanted to go to that school. I wanted to go to the school in the city with my cousins because my cousins wasn't doing it to me. In fact, my cousin would be the one, we were each other's namesake, two weeks apart. At one point they say you couldn't tell us apart. And so she would always give me a piece. Woo, boy, I'm healing myself right now. Why I don't want a piece of nothing. I don't want a piece of man. I want my own. So you couple that with whatever programs you grow up with. When you think under the title as a woman, I'm supposed to have a husband. And the husband is supposed to be the empire. But baby, what about the woman who's building an empire, and she built the empire before she got the husband? So now, and I remember when I asked MC Light and I asked Lynn Richardson, well, what do you do when you make more money sometimes than your man? They said, well, that's all I've ever known. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But some of y'all think something wrong if the man don't have what you don't have. You want him to have it, but you don't have it and you don't know how to get it and you're unwilling to learn. I had to slay that. Because even then I'm just looking for pieces from him when I can have the whole. You say it when in marriage as well. Some of these sayings have been so deeply healed in my mind that I have to recall them. What is it? We say 50-50, that thing we say when it comes to 50-50. This is the one. My better half. My better half. He bring 50 and I bring 50. No, goddammit, I bring 100 of myself. And you bring 100 of yourself. That's why Jay-Z and Beyonce say, what's better than 1 billionaire? 2. Woo! Lord, have mercy. I'm going to close this out, y'all. So look. My mother didn't know I was experiencing that. My mother didn't know. And I wasn't happy with my mother. And my mother said something to me. I wish you had told me because I was bringing the food. You hear what I'm telling you? My mother worked in a cafeteria and would bring food to the family. So whenever she got flour, whenever she got grits, whenever she got a piece of meat or something, she shared it. And so the people who was withholding from me, they was receiving the sustenance from my mother. So guess what? I had an entitlement to the food that was being cooked, that was being withheld from me. So we have to be clear, because I could have felt like I wasn't enough. That became my title for a long period in my life, that I wasn't the favorite. I took on the title for many years that I was the black sheep of my family. I took it on to the point that I could bless it. When I start to walk in that black sheep thing and be okay with being the black sheep, that's when I started showing up for ministry. That's when I became the Rev coach. That's when I became LaTanya. LaTanya is enough. You are enough. You feel me? Not black sheep. I wasn't a black sheep. I was mistreated by people in my family. And that became my identity. So you have to separate your entitlement based on an emotional entitlement. And are your emotions vibrating at the level of healing? Because that creates the fantasy. I should. They should. We ought to. Women don't. Men do. Money is. Because I don't have. I don't have this. I don't have that. And that becomes your title, the have not. But what about the facts? Because many of us don't get to the facts because we don't want to do the process. And each one of you have your story. I see y'all dropping it in the comments. I see you dropping it in. So I said on my post the other day, I don't look like what I've been through. But I don't have to say that no more because my tagline on that is I'm not supposed to, and neither are you. So stop walking around looking like what you've been through because you're not entitled to the pain. Until you understand that you are entitled to your purpose, you are entitled to your pleasure, you are entitled to the rights of your pussy. Yes, I said it. You are entitled to who you are in truth, in spirit and in truth. But you're not entitled to walk in anybody's business and tell them they shouldn't be charging this or they shouldn't be, and they need to give you more. I pray that this bless somebody, because there are times when I swear I could do a part 2 on this, because there's a spirit of entitlement where people are always taking. You're a taker. You don't walk into a space to give. You walk into a space to take. Give me more. That ain't enough. Tell me more. More. And now in this age of information, you think everything is free. So now you can Google it. I'll just Google it. I'll just figure it out. That could be a part 2. And those of you who have ever coached with Ron Davis, you know what I'm talking about. The spirit of the taker and the spirit of the giver. Oh, I could tell you, because that's an energy. And we become emotional vampires in the name of healing, in the name of transformation, in the name of church and ministry. Emotional vampires. Biting at the neck and sucking on the blood of people who are standing up to help and heal you. And that's why God is taking away leaders, these one anointed leaders, one person. You know how I felt when I heard Minister Farrakhan say, I'm about to go home to the Father. Because when God starts to remove the people he set up as prophets to you, there's no longer a cushion. But that's why Jesus said it's expedient for you that I go away. It's good for you sometimes when the cushions and the crutches that we lean on will help us to access the real rights, the true rights. And it requires a rites of passage in ourselves first and in our process, not just one. So I love you. I pray that this blessed you. I did not do the second or third installment on prayer because I realized some of y'all don't want to pray. And you damn sure don't want to pay to learn how to pray scientifically. Some of y'all don't. So I didn't come back in here, keep on making offers. The monthly masterclass is open. It's a $29 subscription. I go into strategy. I teach a little bit in here, but I go into strategy. If you think that could be a value of your life, and you don't think that even what I deposit in here is $29 is worth it, you think about your worth. It's not me. But what I won't do is give strategies to takers. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll put the link for the masterclass above. Have a good day, everyone. I shall.